Recently, we learned that Donald Trump, the thin-skinned leader of the so-called Free Speech Party and former president of the United States, attempted to use federal power and the influence of the White House to silence citizens that he didn't like. And now, we've learned about another one. Intrigued? Then click that like and subscribe, and enjoy the video. So as we've repeatedly discussed on this channel, and it's been the topic of many videos and will likely be the topic of many more, the Republican Party has no affirmative policy agenda. They are entirely within the realm of niche culture war, BS politics. That's all they're good for. And now that they control the House of Representatives, they are proving that again and again and again. They are not offering an affirmative policy agenda. They are not attempting to work with the White House on President Biden's affirmative policy agenda. It's just been one congressional hearing after another into niche culture war issues, like, for example, the Twitter files and the alleged so-called collusion between big tech social media companies and Democrats or the left to the expense, or at the expense, rather, of Republicans and conservatives. And as we've discussed in those videos, most of those claims have very little substance to them. As a matter of fact, what we actually learned during the congressional hearings was that when he was the president of the United States, Donald Trump attempted to leverage the power of the White House on big tech social media companies to silence, suppress, or censor citizens that he didn't like. For example, like Chrissy Teigen, John Legend's wife, who called him a couple of names which are hilarious and now actually part of the congressional record. See, that's an example of sinister government overreach and censorist behavior, right? But it's not done by Joe Biden. It's not done by the Democrats. It was done by a Republican president, the head of government. That should have been all over the news. That's infinitely more damning in terms of like sinister influence than anything that came out of the Twitter files, right? And it certainly hurt the Republicans' credibility to make these claims when it turns out that their leader, their savior, their messianic cult leader, is guilty of the very sorts of censorious crimes they're accusing others of being guilty of. Well, now we actually learned that there is another example of Donald Trump attempting to leverage the power of the White House to silence somebody that he didn't like. And that happens to be late-night host Jimmy Kimmel. So Rolling Stone broke the news, and it's Trump White House pressured Disney to censor Jimmy Kimmel. And the details are pretty interesting. So the long and short of it is, if you watch Jimmy Kimmel or if you're familiar with him on Twitter or anything else, you know that Donald Trump has been a target of Kimmel's since, actually I would imagine since before Trump ran for office, but certainly since he ran for office in 2015, certainly since he became the front runner in the Republican Party, then got elected, and throughout the 4 years of his presidency, he was a frequent target of Kimmel's and most late-night hosts, and understandably so, because, of course, Trump is an idiot who deserves to be mocked at all times. But apparently, Trump was so incensed during the first year in office as president about Kimmel's monologues and jokes and jabs that he told the White House to try to get Disney to shut him up. So the then president, according to two former Trump administration officials, was so upset by Kimmel's comedic jabs that he directed his White House staff to call up one of Disney's top executives in Washington, D.C. to complain and demand action. In at least two separate phone calls that occurred around the time Trump was finishing his first year in office, the White House conveyed the severity of his fury with Kimmel to Disney, the ex-officials tell Rolling Stone. Trump's staff mentioned that the leader of the free world wanted the billion-dollar company to rein in the Trump-trashing ABC host, and that Trump felt that Kimmel had, in the characterization of one former senior administration official, been very dishonest in doing things that Trump would have once sued over. Okay? The incident was so bizarre that news of it spread around the corridors of power in Washington, D.C. Other administration officials who had nothing to do with the pressure campaign began hearing from their contacts at Disney about how confused they were that the White House kept telling them Trump wanted Kimmel to tone down his anti-Trump humor. At least one call was made to Disney that I know of, a third former official who worked at the Trump White House recalls. Sources spoke to Rolling Stone on the condition of anonymity in order to speak freely and to preserve their ongoing relationship in Trump world and conservative circles. I don't know to whom, but it happened. Nobody thought it was going to change anything, but Donald Trump was focused on it, so we had to do something. It was doing something mostly to say to Trump, hey, we did this. Rolling Stone was able to identify one target of the White House's ham-fisted, destined-to-fail pressure campaign, former Disney top lobbyist Richard Bates. The sources say that Trump's staff reached out to Bates to convey the president's anger regarding Kimmel's monologues and jabs. Bates, who served as a prominent Disney executive and as a Washington fixture for over 30 years, passed away in December 2020. So listen, I wouldn't be surprised if as time goes on and former Trump campaign officials or administration officials begin to get more comfortable about speaking freely about this. But clearly, Trump, who is a malignant narcissist, notoriously thin-skinned, it shouldn't be surprising to anybody that he would be willing to use federal power and the power of the White House as the president of the United States to try to shut people up that he didn't like. This is not a man who responds well to criticism. This is not a man who can take it very well. He's very fragile in this respect. But the bottom line is, regarding the broader claims, this is proof that the Republican Party and conservatives are at least as guilty, if not more, of the very crimes that they accuse others of committing. There is a strong instinct towards censorship and cancel culture within the conservative movement, and has been for decades. It's nothing new. You take it all the way back to Joseph McCarthy and the Red Scare in the 40s and 50s, all the way up until, my God, when George Bush was president, you couldn't criticize him at all. Country music singers got ripped off the airwaves. Bill Maher's first show got canceled. And Donald Trump, my God, look at what happened to Kathy Griffin. Look at what he wanted to do in terms of expanding or blowing out libel and slander laws to sue the press. So this idea that cancel culture or censorship is a leftist construct or even exclusively of the left is just not true. Conservatives are at least as guilty of it as anybody, and you should always point that out. They're hypocrites who have no credibility on this subject. Hey you! Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, and I hope that you did, please hit the like and subscribe buttons below. And if you absolutely hated the video, the best revenge for you is also to hit the like and subscribe buttons below. That'll teach me. If you want to share an opinion or share some feedback, go ahead and leave a comment, all right? 2023 is a year of change, hence the aggressive rebrand and commitment to new content. Inspired by my friends Luke Beasley and STV Philly, my personal goal for this channel is to hit 40,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So I'm hoping you'll do me a solid by spreading the word and the videos to potential fans and hate watchers alike. And in the meantime, we'll be pondering politics again with you very soon.